Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel for this very exciting video. At least I'm very excited for. I'm going to be trying out this Wicked themed crochet kits. As you can see here, I actually have two of them. I have the Glinda and the Elphaba kits. I got both these kits at Five Below, but I'm not sure if you can find them anywhere else. But for today, I'm going to be working on Elphaba, and to be completely honest, I've actually been working on this for the past 3 or 4 months behind the scenes while I've been working on all of my other videos. So just from that, you can probably tell how long this has taken me. But I'm very excited to finally show you all the finished video. Here are all the materials, as you can see, pretty standard for crochet kits, except again, this kit didn't bring the little clips that I personally highly recommend because I will always lose my place. And lucky for me, the sized hook was the same one as this one that I've been using, that I'm very comfortable with. And then they actually brought 2 sheets for the instructions. The first one was kind of just explaining very basically the abbreviations, the stitches and everything. Definitely not beginner friendly. I thought these kits were going to be more beginner friendly, but based on just this page alone, I kind of gathered that they pretty much expect you to have at least some like intermediate understanding of crochet and the stitches, because the explanations for each of the stitches aren't that helpful in my opinion. And then the second page is the actual like step-by-step instructions for each of the pieces. And this is actually my first time doing like an actual character or like doll type crochet project. Before, everything that I've done have been like cats or pandas or bears kind of thing. And so I honestly was very nervous to get started because I was a bit overwhelmed with everything right off the bat. But for the most part, everything was just single crochet, increasing stitches, decreasing stitches, slip stitches, and everything started with the magic circle or the magic ring, which at this point I was already pretty familiar with from, again, all of my past crocheting experience. I would consider myself somewhere in between a beginner and an intermediate level. I definitely did have to look up some things because I did get stuck in a few parts. Big preface, this video is not a step-by-step instructions how to do this kit. I'm not even really trying to teach anyone how to do this because again, I'm still learning myself. This is more so just me showing myself doing the kit and trying it. I personally am a big fan of Wicked. I loved the 2 movies. So I was very excited to get the Elphaba and Glinda kits at Five Below, which they were just $5, obviously. And honestly, for $5, I think these kits are very much worth the price. Here, I've already gone through and done like the legs for Elphaba. And honestly, this process was really hard for me. It taught me a different way of doing things. Normally, I feel like I would have done the 2 legs separately and united them, but with this kit, they actually had you do them together, which felt really weird for me. And of course, as I was going, I was filling it up with the stuffing that was provided. And at this point, they have you switch off to the green yarn to start working on the head, which looked really weird from this angle because it kind of looked like it was just the body without like the torso and then went straight into the head. So at this point I was questioning if I had did something wrong, if I had skipped a step or anything, but as far as I know, this was actually right and I wasn't making any huge mistakes. Here you can see like the advancement of the head. And as I mentioned, this, I believe, took me about 3 or 4 months to do completely. Partly because I wasn't solely focused on this, and partly just because it took forever. Again, I was working on this on the side while I was also working on all of my other videos that have been coming out. And Here is the head pretty much fully done and stuffed. At this point, the instructions tell you to add in the eyes, which here is probably one of my biggest regrets, is I ended up putting the eyes pretty high up. I was overestimating how big the nose was going to be and how much space I was going to need for the nose. So I ended up putting the eyes pretty high up. And once after here, I sewed up the head, so there wasn't really any way to go back without like ruining it. And as you can see here, while I was working through this, I always have like a post-it note or like any scrap piece of paper to kind of just mark where I'm going, because I tend to get lost very easily while I'm doing crochet. I did really enjoy the process. I've really fallen in love with crocheting, and although it's not something I can dedicate a lot of time to since I have all of my other projects, it's something I'm really enjoying. But since if you've been following me on my TikTok or been seeing my YouTube shorts that I've been posting recently, you've probably seen all the many crochet kits that I've been buying that I have to do. So there will be more crocheting videos in the future. My next one is going to be Glinda, but seeing as this one took me 3 to 4 months, I'm assuming Glinda will probably take me 3 to 4 months. But with Elphaba here, we're going on to the skirt piece, which was also really interesting to make. When you were making the body, there was a part where you only worked in the back loops. And then here for the skirt, you actually went back to those stitches and worked in only the front loops that you had left alone when you were doing the torso. And that's where you add on the skirts. As I mentioned, this kit taught me a lot of new ways to do crochet. I was kind of always used to doing like everything in pieces and then sewing them together, whereas this one I felt like a lot of it was working all in one giant piece. I mean, all of this was all made together, like none of this was sewed on together, which I wasn't really used to. The only parts you really sew on are the hands, the hat, and the hair. And speaking of the hands, I made them. There's actually a step that's supposed to make the sleeves look extra puffy, but I didn't really end up doing it, mostly because I liked how they looked as they are. Sometimes when I do kits, especially crochet kits, I like to follow the instructions exactly as they are written, but I've pretty much noticed that the more I do crochet, the more I kind of understand it, the more liberties I take with certain things like this. Just because I liked how the hands looked already, I didn't want to add any extra puffiness, so I just skipped that step. But here I am sewing on the hands. Honestly, I'm not sure if I was supposed to do this at this point or not, but I didn't want to end up losing the hands, so I just went ahead and did it. Also, I was kind of impatient to see how it was coming along, because honestly, without the hair and the hats, this kind of doesn't make sense as what it's supposed to be. And honestly though, with the hands, it's already looking a lot cuter. And here I kind of just skipped ahead to the hair because in truth, I couldn't really do the hair myself. I had to ask my mom, who also does a lot of crocheting, to do it for me because one, it was taking me way too long, and two, I was struggling a lot. I think I did the first 3 or 4 strands of hair, and she just noticed that like one strand of hair was taking me like 2-3 hours to do. And so at that rate, I was never gonna finish, whereas she was able to do like a strand in like 5 minutes maybe. So thankfully she came in clutch and did the hair for me, and I continued on the hats. And honestly, at this point, I was just so ecstatic seeing how the pieces were coming together. But unfortunately, which is often the case for me, I ran out of yarn, specifically this black yarn. At this point, the hat wasn't fully done. I believe I still needed 1 or 2 more steps. Um, and I wasn't sure if I was just going to leave it this way, but then I found this extra scrap piece of yarn from a previous kit that was pretty much the exact same size, so I just added it on and finished it. And again, off camera, because this video is long enough already, I did all the rest of the facial details. I even added a mouth, which wasn't a part of the instructions, but I thought would make it look cute. I did the nose, which ended up being bigger than I intended. I sewed on the hair and the hat, and this is how Elphaba finally turned out. She isn't perfect, my skills with crocheting aren't the best still, and it's not exactly like the photo on the box, but I'm honestly so happy with how she turned out. She turned out a lot better and cuter than I had imagined originally, and I'm just so happy with how she turned out, and I hope you all can agree and like how she turned out as well. I think she looks really cute. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Bye!